In the hushed corridors of Kensington Palace, where whispers of history echo through marble halls, lies a secret vault that holds more than precious stones and gold. Within its walls rest 9 extraordinary pieces of jewelry, each one carrying the laughter, tears, and untold stories of a princess who changed the world forever. These aren't just accessories. They are fragments of Diana Spencer's soul, now resting upon the graceful frame of Catherine, Princess of Wales. When Diana first slipped on her engagement ring in 1981, she had no idea that decades later, the same sapphire would grace the finger of another young woman stepping into the royal spotlight. She couldn't have imagined that her pearl earrings would one day catch the light as Catherine curtsied to foreign dignitaries, or that her beloved Spencer tiara would continue to sparkle at state occasions long after Diana's final bow. But perhaps Diana knew something the rest of US didn't. Perhaps she understood that true royalty isn't about crowns or castles. It's about the invisible threads that connect one generation to the next, binding hearts across time through objects that hold memories like precious gems hold light. These 9 pieces of jewelry aren't just beautiful artifacts. They are love letters from a mother to a daughter-in-law she would never meet, promises that her legacy would live on in someone who would honor both the crown and the heart that came with it. This is the story of how diamonds became bridges, how pearls became promises, and how a princess's most treasured possessions found their way to someone worthy of carrying her light into the future. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of St. James's Palace as Prince William sat across from his younger brother Harry in the private apartment they had shared during their bachelor days. Between them lay a mahogany jewelry box that had remained untouched for nearly a decade since their mother's death. The brothers had finally reached the age where they could face what lay inside without their hearts breaking completely. Diana's jewelry collection had been carefully preserved, waiting for this moment when her sons would decide which pieces would accompany them into their own futures. William ran his fingers along the edge of the box, remembering how his mother would sit at her dressing table each morning, selecting pieces that would tell the story of her day. Sometimes she chose bold statement necklaces for charity galas, other times delicate earrings for quiet lunches with friends. Each piece had been chosen with purpose, worn with grace, and imbued with the magnetic energy that made Diana impossible to ignore. The first piece they lifted from its velvet cushion was the engagement ring that had started all. The 12-carat Ceylon sapphire, surrounded by diamonds, had been Diana's choice from a selection presented by Garrard, the crown jewelers. Unlike other royal brides who commissioned unique pieces, Diana had selected this ring from the catalog, making it accessible to the public in a way that perfectly captured her desire to connect with ordinary people. The deep blue stone seemed to hold secrets, reflecting light in ways that reminded William of his mother's eyes when she was truly happy. Harry watched his older brother hold the ring, understanding without words that this piece belonged with William. It would find its way to the woman who would one day stand beside him, just as it had adorned their mother's finger through years of joy and sorrow. The ring had witnessed Diana's transformation from a shy kindergarten teacher into a global icon, had caught the light during thousands of photographs, and had been twisted nervously around her finger during difficult moments when the weight of royal duty felt unbearable. Next came the Cambridge Lovers' Knot Tiara, a piece with its own remarkable history. Originally commissioned by Queen Mary in 1914, the tiara featured diamonds and pearls arranged in lovers' knots, a symbol of eternal affection. It had been one of Diana's wedding gifts from the Queen, though she initially found it heavy and difficult to wear. The tiara had given her headaches during long state occasions, but Diana had persevered, understanding that some discomforts came with the territory of representing the crown. William remembered watching his mother prepare for state banquets, seeing her wince slightly as the tiara was secured in her blonde hair. She had once confided to him that she preferred lighter pieces, jewelry that moved with her rather than against her. But the Cambridge Lovers' knot had grown on her over time, becoming a symbol of her commitment to royal duty even when that duty required personal sacrifice. The tiara had been photographed countless times, becoming synonymous with Diana's regal presence at the most formal occasions. The brothers then discovered Diana's pearl and diamond earrings, pieces she had worn so frequently they seemed like extensions of her own elegance. These weren't the massive, ornate earrings favored by some members of the royal family. Instead, they were perfectly proportioned, sophisticated without being overwhelming, classic without being boring. Diana had understood intuitively that jewelry should enhance rather than overshadow, that the most beautiful accessories were those that made the wearer more radiant rather than simply more decorated. Among the collection was also Diana's gold and diamond bracelet, a piece she had received as a wedding gift and worn throughout her marriage. The bracelet had been photographed on her wrist as she held her newborn sons, had accompanied her to charity events where she held the hands of AIDS patients when such contact was still controversial, and had glinted in the sunlight as she walked through minefields in Angola, bringing global attention to the devastating impact of landmines on civilian populations. The Collingwood pearl earrings represented another facet of Diana's jewelry story. These elegant drops had been among her personal purchases, pieces she had chosen because they spoke to her own aesthetic rather than because protocol demanded them. Diana had worn these earrings to more intimate occasions, lunches with friends, visits to her son's schools, and quiet dinners where she could simply be herself rather than playing the role of princess. William found himself drawn to his mother's diamond and sapphire cluster earrings, pieces that somehow captured Diana's ability to be both approachable and magnificent. These earrings had framed her face during some of her most memorable public appearances, had caught photographers' flashes during charity galas, and had been the last thing she removed before bed on countless nights when the demands of public life had left her emotionally drained but still committed to serving others. The sapphire and diamond suite that Diana had worn to various state occasions represented the more formal aspect of her jewelry collection. These pieces had been designed to complement the grandeur of royal ceremonies while still reflecting Diana's personal style. She had never been comfortable with overly ornate jewelry, preferring pieces that felt like natural extensions of her personality rather than costumes she was required to wear. As the brothers continued their careful examination of their mother's collection, they discovered her gold charm bracelet, a more personal piece that told the story of Diana's life through small golden symbols. Each charm had been added to commemorate special moments, creating a wearable autobiography that chronicled everything from her son's births to her charitable endeavors. This bracelet represented the private Diana, the woman who collected mementos and treasured personal connections above protocol and formality. Finally, they uncovered Diana's diamond tennis bracelet, a piece that had been photographed extensively, but had held deeper meaning for their mother. She had worn this bracelet during some of her most challenging moments, finding comfort in its familiar weight around her wrist. The diamonds had been a source of strength during difficult public appearances, a reminder that she possessed an inner light that no amount of criticism or controversy could extinguish. The decision about how to divide these precious pieces wasn't difficult for the brothers. They both understood that their mother's jewelry was meant to continue telling stories, meant to grace the women who would stand beside them as they carried forward Diana's legacy of service and compassion. William would take the engagement ring, knowing it would find its way to Catherine when the time was right. Harry selected pieces that would eventually belong to Meghan, understanding that Diana would have wanted her jewelry to welcome new members into the family rather than remaining locked away as museum pieces. The process of going through their mother's jewelry had been emotional, but also healing. Each piece had triggered memories of Diana getting ready for various events, of seeing her transform from mother to princess to global humanitarian, depending on what the day required. The jewelry had been witness to her evolution, silent companions during her journey from teenage bride to mature woman who understood her own power and chose to use it for good. As they carefully returned each piece to its place in the collection, both brothers felt their mother's presence in the room. Diana had always believed that her most important legacy would be her sons, but her jewelry would serve as a bridge connecting her memory to future generations. These precious pieces would carry her grace, her style, and her spirit forward, ensuring that Diana's influence would continue to sparkle in the light long after her own star had been dimmed. The autumn leaves were turning golden outside the windows of Clarence House when Catherine Middleton first laid eyes on Diana's engagement ring. She had been dating Prince William for several years by then, their relationship having weathered the storms of media scrutiny and the natural uncertainties that come with loving someone whose life belongs as much to the public as it does to himself. Catherine had grown accustomed to the constant presence of photographers, had learned to navigate the complex protocols of royal life, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. William had planned the proposal carefully, choosing Kenya as the location because it held special significance for both of them. They had visited the country together during their courtship, finding solace in its vast landscapes and the freedom it offered from the relentless attention they faced in Britain. But before they left for Africa, William had made a private visit to the vault where his mother's jewelry was kept, retrieving the sapphire ring that had captured the world imagination 3 decades earlier. Catherine's first reaction upon seeing the ring wasn't about its monetary value or its historical significance. Instead, she was struck by how surprisingly personal it felt despite its grand appearance. The deep blue sapphire seemed to hold light in a way that reminded her of evening skies, while the surrounding diamonds caught and reflected illumination like stars. William explained how his mother had chosen this particular ring because it reminded her of her engagement to his father, but Catherine understood immediately that Diana had been drawn to its beauty rather than its price tag. The weight of the ring on Catherine's finger felt both foreign and familiar. Foreign because she had never worn anything so substantial, so laden with history and expectation. Familiar because somehow it seemed to belong there, as if Diana herself had selected not just the ring but the woman who would eventually wear it. Catherine found herself studying the ring at quiet moments, wondering about all the hands it had touched, all the moments it had witnessed, all the emotions it had absorbed during its years with Diana. As their engagement was announced to the world, Catherine began to understand the unique responsibility that came with wearing Diana's most famous piece of jewelry. The ring wasn't just a symbol of William's love for her. It was a bridge connecting her to a woman she had never met but whose influence would shape every aspect of her future role. Diana's engagement ring carried expectations, comparisons, and a legacy of both triumph and tragedy that Catherine would need to navigate with grace and wisdom. The months following their engagement gave Catherine her first real insight into Diana's jewelry collection. During private moments at various royal residences, William would share stories about different pieces, explaining how his mother had worn them and what they had meant to her. Catherine learned about the Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara through William's childhood memories of watching Diana prepare for state banquets, seeing how she had grown into the weight of such formal pieces even when they caused her physical discomfort. Catherine's own relationship with jewelry had always been understated. She preferred simple, classic pieces that complemented rather than dominated her outfits. This natural inclination toward elegance over ostentation aligned perfectly with Diana's own evolution toward more refined, timeless pieces later in her life. Both women seemed to understand instinctively that true style comes from confidence rather than cost, from choosing pieces that enhance one's natural beauty rather than competing with it. The first time Catherine wore Diana's pearl earrings was during a private dinner with the Queen at Windsor Castle. The earrings had been a gift from William, presented without ceremony, but with deep meaning. As Catherine fastened them in her ears, she felt a connection to Diana that transcended the physical beauty of the pearls themselves. These earrings had framed Diana's face during countless photographs, had been present during moments of joy and sorrow, had somehow absorbed something essential about the woman who had worn them. During her engagement period, Catherine also had her first encounter with the diamond tennis bracelet that had been such a source of comfort to Diana. William had noticed Catherine's tendency to touch her engagement ring during stressful moments, a gesture that reminded him of his mother's similar habit of finding solace in familiar jewelry. He presented the tennis bracelet as a pre-wedding gift, explaining how Diana had worn it during challenging times as a reminder of her own strength. Catherine's wedding day marked her first public appearance in Diana's jewelry beyond the famous engagement ring. She had chosen Diana's diamond and pearl earrings to complement her Alexander McQueen gown, understanding that this choice would be noticed and interpreted by millions of viewers around the world. The earrings provided a subtle connection to William's mother without overwhelming Catherine's own identity on the most important day of her life. The experience of wearing Diana's jewelry in public for the first time was both thrilling and nerve-wracking for Catherine. She understood that every piece carried symbolic weight, that her choices would be analyzed and discussed in minute detail by media outlets and royal watchers. But she also found strength in the connection these pieces provided to Diana's memory, feeling as though she carried a piece of William's mother with her as she stepped into her new role as his wife and partner. Catherine's approach to wearing Diana's jewelry evolved naturally over time. Rather than treating these pieces as museum artifacts to be displayed on special occasions, she integrated them into her regular wardrobe in ways that felt authentic and appropriate. She wore Diana's pearl earrings to charity events, understanding that Diana would have appreciated seeing her jewelry continue to serve philanthropic causes. She chose Diana's bracelets for more casual occasions, allowing these precious pieces to be part of everyday life rather than reserved only for state functions. The emotional impact of wearing Diana's jewelry went beyond its physical beauty for Catherine. Each piece connected her to stories about William's childhood, helping her understand the woman who had shaped the man she loved. Diana's jewelry became a way for Catherine to honor her mother-in-law's memory, while also expressing her own style and personality. The pieces served as conversation starters at royal events, allowing Catherine to share Diana's story with new generations who might not remember the people's princess directly. Catherine's relationship with Diana's jewelry also reflected her growing confidence in her royal role. Initially, she had been somewhat hesitant about wearing such historically significant pieces, worried about living up to the legacy they represented. But as she gained experience in public life, Catherine began to understand that Diana would have wanted her jewelry to be worn and enjoyed rather than preserved behind glass. This realization allowed Catherine to embrace these precious pieces as tools for service rather than burdens of expectation. The process of inheriting Diana's jewelry had also deepened the bond between Catherine and William, sharing stories about his mother's favorite pieces, explaining their significance, and witnessing Catherine's respectful approach to wearing them had given William comfort that Diana's memory was in caring hands. Catherine's natural grace and genuine appreciation for the pieces had reassured him that his mother's legacy would be honored and continued in ways that would have made Diana proud. As Catherine settled into married life, Diana's jewelry became part of her daily routine in small but meaningful ways. She might choose Diana's simple gold bracelet for a school event, allowing the piece to catch the light as she interacted with children in ways that echoed Diana's own natural connection with young people. Or she might select Diana's diamond earrings for a formal dinner, knowing that the sparkle in the candlelight would have pleased the woman who had understood that jewelry should bring joy rather than serve as mere decoration. The transformation of Diana's jewelry from treasured memories into living symbols of continuity became most evident as Catherine grew into her role as the Princess of Wales. Years had passed since her wedding day, and she had learned to navigate the complex world of royal protocol while maintaining her own authentic voice. Diana's jewelry had become an integral part of this journey, each piece carrying forward not just aesthetic beauty, but the values and spirit of the woman who had originally worn them. Catherine's children had grown accustomed to seeing their mother wear pieces that had once belonged to their grandmother, though they were too young to fully understand the significance. Princess Charlotte would sometimes reach up to touch the pearls around Catherine's neck during family photographs, unknowingly connecting with jewelry that had once been touched by Diana's own hands. Prince George and Prince Louis had grown up seeing their mother's jewelry as simply part of who she was, not realizing that some of her most beautiful pieces carried decades of royal history. The Cambridge Lover's Knot Tiara had become Catherine's signature piece for the most formal state occasions. Unlike Diana, who had initially struggled with its weight, Catherine had worked with the palace's jewelry experts to ensure proper fitting and support. She had learned techniques for wearing heavy tiaras that Diana had never been taught, allowing her to carry herself with comfort and confidence even during the longest state banquets. When photographers captured Catherine wearing the tiara, the images showed a woman completely at ease with both the jewelry and the responsibility it represented. Catherine's approach to wearing Diana's engagement ring had evolved significantly over the years. What had once felt like an overwhelming symbol of expectation had become a source of daily strength and connection. The ring had been present for every major milestone in Catherine's royal life, from her first solo patronage visits to international tours representing the crown. The sapphire had caught the light during handshakes with world leaders, had been visible in photographs as Catherine comforted grieving families, and had sparkled during moments of celebration with the British people. The pearl and diamond earrings that Diana had loved so much had become Catherine's go-to choice for charity events and public engagements. These earrings seemed to embody Diana's approach to royal duty, elegant enough for formal occasions, but approachable enough for connecting with ordinary people. Catherine had worn them during hospital visits, school openings, and community events, allowing them to witness her own evolution into a patron and advocate for causes close to her heart. Diana's diamond tennis bracelet had found new life on Catherine's wrist during some of her most challenging public moments. Just as the bracelet had provided comfort to Diana during difficult times, it seemed to offer Catherine a tangible connection to strength and resilience. She had worn it during emotionally demanding visits to grief-stricken communities, finding solace in its familiar weight and the knowledge that Diana had drawn similar comfort from the same piece. The gold charm bracelet that had chronicled Diana's personal journey had inspired Catherine to begin her own collection of meaningful jewelry. While she treasured Diana's original bracelet, Catherine understood that each generation needed to create its own symbols and memories. She had begun adding pieces that commemorated her own milestones, her children's births, and her growing involvement with various charitable causes, creating a new chapter in the family's jewelry story. Catherine's wearing of Diana's sapphire and diamond cluster earrings had become particularly meaningful during international visits. These earrings had accompanied Catherine to state dinners around the world, serving as subtle ambassadors of British style and grace. Foreign dignitaries and members of other royal families had learned to recognize these pieces, understanding their significance in connecting past and present within the British royal family. The Collingwood pearl earrings had found their place in Catherine's collection as perfect choices for more intimate occasions. She wore them during private receptions at Kensington Palace, for quiet dinners with charitable organizations, and during family celebrations that required elegance without formality. These earrings seemed to capture Catherine's ability to balance public duty with personal warmth, just as they had done for Diana decades earlier. Catherine's relationship with Diana's jewelry had also become a way of teaching her own children about their grandmother's legacy. As Princess Charlotte grew older, Catherine began sharing age-appropriate stories about the pieces, explaining how their grandmother had worn them and why they were special. These conversations weren't just about jewelry. They were about values, service, and the responsibility that comes with privilege and position. The impact of Diana's jewelry on Catherine's public image had been profound and largely positive. Fashion experts and royal watchers had praised Catherine's thoughtful approach to wearing these historic pieces, noting how she had managed to honor Diana's memory while expressing her own style and personality. The jewelry had become a bridge connecting different generations of royal watchers, with older fans appreciating the continuity while younger audiences discovered Diana's story through Catherine's choices. Catherine's integration of Diana's jewelry into her working wardrobe had also had practical benefits for her role as a senior royal. The pieces provided her with options for every level of formality, from the grandest state occasions to the most casual public engagements. Having access to such a comprehensive collection of high-quality, historically significant jewelry had allowed Catherine to always appear appropriately dressed while also carrying forward meaningful symbols of royal continuity. The emotional significance of Diana's jewelry had only deepened for Catherine as she had faced her own challenges in royal life. During difficult periods when media criticism felt overwhelming or when the pressure of public expectations seemed unbearable, Catherine had found strength in wearing pieces that had sustained Diana through similar struggles. The jewelry served as a reminder that she was not the first woman to face these challenges and would not be the last. Catherine's stewardship of Diana's jewelry had also become part of her own legacy. Royal historians and jewelry experts had noted how thoughtfully she had cared for these pieces, ensuring they remained in perfect condition while also allowing them to fulfill their purpose as working jewelry rather than museum pieces. Catherine's approach had set a standard for how future generations might handle inherited royal jewelry, balancing preservation with practical use. The international impact of Catherine wearing Diana's jewelry had been remarkable to observe. Photographs of Catherine and Diana's pieces had been published around the world, keeping Diana's memory alive for new audiences while also showcasing contemporary British royal style. The jewelry had become a form of soft diplomacy, creating positive associations with British culture and values in countries far from the United Kingdom. As Catherine looked toward the future, she understood that her role as custodian of Diana's jewelry was temporary. Someday, these precious pieces would pass to the next generation, perhaps to Princess Charlotte or to the wives of her sons. Catherine's responsibility was to care for the jewelry with respect and love, while also creating new memories and associations that would enrich their stories for future wearers. The 9 precious pieces of Diana's jewelry that had passed to Catherine had fulfilled their ultimate purpose. They had successfully bridged the gap between past and present, allowing Diana's influence to continue shining brightly through a new generation of royal service. Catherine had honored both the jewelry and the woman who had originally worn it, creating a living legacy that would inspire and guide future generations of the royal family. Diana's jewelry had found its perfect inheritor in Catherine, a woman who understood that true beauty comes not from the cost of one's accessories, but from the love, service, and grace with which one wears them through life.